Hello, good morning. Is it morning? Yeah, it's morning. Good morning. Welcome. Hello, 13th jurors. Hello. Come on in, grab your seats. Hello. We have a big day today, and that is because I have spent more time than I'd like to admit, or more time than, if you knew how much time I actually spent going over everything, you would know that I'm a little bit obsessive and have no life. So we won't talk about how much time I actually spent doing all of this, but we will go over this. I've got to turn on my little mini fan down here because Lord knows it's hot in Florida. Hello. People are still coming in. Hello. I hope everybody's had a good weekend. It's been days without y'all. What have I been doing with myself? Still working, but just not without being able to chat with y'all. So I will tell you that anyone who knows me knows that I am a tad bit obsessive, and we're okay with that. So because of that, I have done a deep dive into all of the things, and I don't even have time to go over everything today. But we are going to go over everything from the trial so far, some of the background information, and a few other things. And then I am going to put out a little video with some background information and some links and stuff too. There are so many things. And a lot of the stuff that I wanted to show, I can't show on my channel because it's not that kind of channel. So I am going to put out a video later with a little bit of extra information and some links so that y'all can check out some of the stuff on your own if you want to. And there's some stuff that's a doozy. So that will be out either later today, possibly tomorrow, who knows. But it won't be too long. I've got most of it all together. But there's a lot going on in the background with all of this. So, but okay, so as we know, the first 4 days of the Melly trial have been interesting, to say the least. Hello, Edward Foster. We have a new member. Hello, Edward Foster, and welcome to the cult family. We are glad you're here. Let's see. I have a lot to show y'all today. What my plan is for our little stream here today. Oh yes, thank you. I am back in my comfy chair. I am back in my own home. As much as I loved streaming from my mama's because I got snacks, I am back in my own home today, and I am very excited about that because there's no place like home in my comfy chair. Okay, so our plan for the day. I am going to go over we're going to go over the court stuff, a summary of the court stuff and what we've missed. I got some graphics because this stuff is really hard to understand a lot if I can't see it. So it's like somebody I was talking to yesterday was saying, he said, without the charts and graphics and stuff that he would be lost, because he said, hearing them say, okay, you turn right on this road and left on this road means nothing when you don't have it in context to everything else. So I've got some graphics. We are going to go over, I did a graphic to go over the PCA stuff, gun testimony that lasted and ballistics testimony that lasted 8 business days. We're going to go over like the 10-minute version of that. And I've got some of the court papers that we are going to look at, and some fun stuff with that. And then I don't know. And then we'll see where it takes us. I've got so much stuff going on with all of this that we'll just see where it takes us. All right. So Let's see. Let's just get it started. How's that? So, the first thing we are going to look at is the who's who. Now, I know that depending on if you hear like what happened to the picture right here? Melly's picture is gone for some reason. Okay, well, at least we know what he looks like. We've seen him all day, every day for the last 4 days. I don't know what happened to his picture. Regardless. Okay, so this is the who's who. Now, I did it in relation to the car because that's kind of the hardest part to orientate yourself if, trying to figure out who was where and who's who and all of that. So this is who's who and where they were. And I don't know what happened to Melly's picture. That's going to drive me nuts. All right, so here's the who's who. We have Cortland Henry. Now, Cortland is also known as Bortland. If you remember in opening statements, they said that because they were affiliated with the Bloods, they would not use a C on anything. So he changed his name not legally changed it, but he had everybody calling him Bortland instead of Cortland because all of the C's are changed to B's because of Crips and Bloods. So Cortland Henry is also known as Bortland. He is the driver. The back was Melly. Again, don't know where his picture went, but we're just going to go with it. And then our two victims are Sack and Juvie. So Sack is also known as Anthony Williams, depending on who you hear talking about him. And Juvie is Christopher Thomas Jr. So Sack was in the front and Juvie was in the back. And you will hear me call them Sack and Juvie because all of the stuff that I do and all of the hi Lucy, all of the here, sorry, dog drama. All of the prosecutors and everything, and the formal people call them by their formal names, but the witnesses call them by Sack and Juvie. So that's what we're going with. So that's our who's who. So a little background of them, in case you don't remember or have missed it or whatever. They were all members of the group YNW. There are more people in the YNW group, but and there's more people involved in this trial, but we'll get to them as we go. But these are the four main players because those were the ones in the car. They have been friends for years and years. They were friends when they were kids. I think in interviews that I saw with Juvie's dad, he said that they were friends since '99, which is when Melly was born. Like their parents knew each other, so they've been friends since one of them since kindergarten, one of them since 8th grade. They were longtime friends. So the story behind the whole trial is that on October 26th of 2018, these four left the studio in Fort Lauderdale and headed toward home. These guys were in this, which is not a Jeep, but this is the Jeep. It's our representation of the Jeep. It's like, depending on the pictures you look at, it looks black in most of the stuff, but then you can see it's like a gray or dark blue in some pictures, just depending. But this is the dark Jeep. There was also a red SUV that was at the studio, and the red SUV had the other four that were together at the studio with them. They left, went home. The Jeep did not make it home. There was a shooting. These two, Sack and Juvie, died from gunshot wounds. Bortland, right here, made it to the hospital and told them that there was a drive-by, said that it was just those three in the car, that Melly wasn't there. The investigation began, and Bortland was arrested for murder in the first degree and accessory after the fact. Melly was arrested for 2 counts of murder in the first degree. He is facing the death penalty. Bortland is out on bond currently. His trial is set for October. A lot of people have been asking about Bortland being out on bond. I think from what I can tell from going through everything, the main reason that he was granted bond and Melly was not is because he was the known driver, and all of the evidence points to the gunshots coming from the rear driver's seat, from right here and not from where he was sitting. So he was granted bond, and he is facing trial in October. All right, so our day one, it's Judge John Murphy is presiding, and John Murphy III, I think is his name. And then we have the prosecutor, Christine Bradley, and defense, David Howard. Now, there's more on each team, but we'll get to them later. These are the ones who we're on day one. These are the ones who did opening. So these are the ones we're going with first of all. And I love this because it looks like they're fighting. And if you've watched this trial, you know that there's some tension going on with them. So it looks like in this corner you have, and I love that kind of stuff. All right, so the opening statements start with Miss Christine Bradley. She lays out the story to the jury, and I have plotted it out for you. So this is, she says that it all starts with Bortland's story. So this whole thing starts with Bortland coming to the hospital. He shows up at the hospital at 4:35 a.m. He has 2 dead bodies in his car. He tells them that there was a drive-by, and that he ducked, and he was, he didn't see anything, doesn't really know who it was or what happened. So he says that the shooting happened right here. This is about a 1-mile area from the time they got off 75. And he said that it happened somewhere right here. And then he turned right and came straight to the hospital. So that's his story. So he tells them, and that's, of course, we can see on the map, that's not far from where they're at. So they decide to shut down this whole area, and they go canvassing the area. So they're looking for anything, basically, any kind of evidence to start pointing them in any type of direction. So they find no broken glass. They find no shell casings. There's basically no evidence of anything. So they decide to search 1 mile in the other direction. So they shut all of this down too. And they're looking for, same thing, anything. There were also no reports of any, gunshots heard or anything like that. So there's basically nothing. Now, they said at the hospital that there were about 16 visible bullet defects in the Jeep when it pulled up, and it had the rear window back here busted out and these 2 windows busted out. So with all of this damage to the car, they're thinking there should be something. So it's not making sense. So she says that they start their investigation kind of working backwards. So first thing they do is check let me move myself. Maybe I'll just make myself so much smaller. Let's see. There. Now we can see. Okay, so they go back because they said, Bortland says that, they were coming from the studio. So first thing they do is go to the studio and get them to pull the footage. So here's where things aren't adding up. So they originally said that they were going to go pull the studio footage to see maybe if somebody followed them, if they could get some kind of information about, if they saw another car that pulled out behind them or anything like that. So we watch as on the footage, they watch and they see, Portland. This is Portland. They see him. This is the footage of him. He's getting in the passenger seat or in the driver's seat. They see the footage of Sack. He's getting in the front passenger. They see Juvie. He's getting in the rear passenger. And to their surprise, here's Melly getting into the rear driver's side seat. This is not what they were told. This is all new to them. They had no idea that Melly was in the car. And again, his mugshot's gone. I don't know why his mugshot's gone, but whatever. You get the important stuff. So this is news to them. So this is what basically launches their entire investigation on Melly, because now they know that there was dishonesty happening. So they see in the video that the Jeep pulls out first and the red SUV follows. So Bradley then lays out the timeline. So this is the timeline that she gives based on opening statements. So, okay, the studio. Here, let me move myself again. I just got to keep moving myself for the different graphics. We'll make it work. Okay. So the studio is up here. Oh, here. Right here. It shows them leaving there at 3:19. So they leave the studio at 3:19. Jeep pulls out first, red SUV, the Mitsubishi pulls out behind them, and they follow along the same route all the way home. And all that, they turn left on this, and they turn right on this, and they did this on this. I mapped all of that out because who can pay attention to all those turns when you don't have it mapped out? So this way we can see it. So they follow the same route all the way home, pretty much, until they get to right by the house. So at 3:19, both cars leave the studio. Now, one of the things she notices too is, they pull the step information. Anybody who watched like the Murdoch trial, step information was a big deal on that one too. Your phone can tell when you have movements. Now, it's not 100% accurate, but it is effective when it's sensing patterns. So like if you actually in reality walk 70 steps, it might say that you walked 85 steps. It might say that you walked 60 steps, but you know that that's the general amount. But if you walk 70 steps, it's not going to say that you walked 2,000 steps. It's not going to be 100% accurate to the step, but it will give you a generalized idea of the pattern of movement. So that's why it's important. So at 3:19, Melly's phone shows that he takes 70 steps, and both cars leave the studio. They get in the car. They drive home the same route. Now at 3:49. The red SUV enters the gates. This is the picture of the red SUV entering the gates to the gated community where they live. So we watch the video in court. We know that the red SUV enters. The guard comes out, checks their ID. They go on in. There's no sign of the Jeep going into the gates before them or after them. It's just the red SUV. So based on the phone data, and we're going to get into more of the details later. This is just the summary of the opening statements. Based on the phone data, she said the Jeep goes north. At 4:02, Melly exits the car at the scene where everything was staged, and there's another 70 steps shown on his phone. Now the Jeep has driven over here. You can see it. Where the red car goes south right here to go home, the Jeep goes north and then turns over here, comes down. This is like the Everglades. If this were to be farther out, you could see that there's green as far as the eye could see over there because you're at the edge of the Everglades where there's nothing going on. Come over here. Pembroke Road it's like this big curve that goes dead ends into a trash dump. So this is where the scene was staged. At 4:02, she said that his phone shows that he exited the car. There were 70 steps. They're in this remote area. And at 4:20, some of this is based on the PCA too. At 4:20, Melly's phone separates from the victims. And this is what time she says in opening statements at 4:20. The PCA says something different, but we'll get into that. At 4:20, she said Melly's phone separates from the victims. And this is the time we know that he FaceTimes his girlfriend, Mariah. He tells her, I've just been in, a drive-by. He said, I think that Sack and Juvie are dead. He said he was hiding in the bushes. He said that, he was basically scared for his life. Mariah is on the phone or on FaceTime with him. She screams. It wakes up her mom. Her mom comes in and sees all of this, sees him on FaceTime, saying all of this, and, has a deposition statement saying this. But of course, now for anybody that was there on day 4, we know that now all of a sudden she has amnesia. So all of that happens between 4:20 and whenever he gets picked up. Now at 4:35, according to opening statements, at 4:35, Bortland arrives to the hospital. He tells the police department that the shooting occurred between 160th and 172nd, which again we said is that area right there. And then this is another thing that was a big part of the opening statements. At 4:42, Melly drops a location pin for Fredo Bang to come pick him up. Frederick Givens is his name, but he's a rapper as well, and he goes by Fredo Bang. So 11 minutes later, he drops another pin for Fredo Bang to come get him. Now, in between those two pins, during that 11 minutes, Melly's phone records 1,397 steps. So obviously that's a whole lot more walking, at 4:45 in the morning than he's done the entire rest of the day. So this is, according to the prosecution, this is consistent with him, trying to get up out of there. She also says in the openings, she points out that Melly is G-Shine Bloods, and she brings up the Instagram message where he says, when somebody asks about how he's doing and asks about the drive-by, he says, I did that. Shh. And that's all of the opening statements against. Okay, so this is the now this part right here where this is, it's a little bit harder to see. So this is that part that's just zoomed in. Now, if you look, let me move myself again. I should have taken that into consideration when I was doing all of these charts, that I was going to have to move myself around some. I should have left one corner open. Okay, thank you, Aaron Patterson. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you. You know I love a good chart. Thank you, thank you. All right, so this is some of the information. This is that zoomed in area, and this is some of the information that we'll get into later too. But this is between 3:46 a.m. and 4:35 a.m. So, all right, so this is right after they get off 75. This red area right here is where Bortland told them that he was driving and then turned right to go to the hospital right here. He says that this is where the shooting happened, which of course we know is false. Now, what really happened, we see based on all of the cell phone data, is that they kept driving past here when they got here, 3:46 a.m. 3:49 a.m. down here, the red SUV enters into the gates, and the Jeep keeps going. Now, we know that at 3:46, based on the PCA, we know that at 3:46 a.m., security camera footage caught these two going by right here. The Jeep, after the red SUV goes down there, the Jeep turns right and goes north, and then turns left going towards the Everglades, going west towards the Everglades. Now, there's a CCTV camera right here that caught the Jeep going west at 3:53 a.m. Goes, cell phone data shows it goes this way, turns down here, going through the Everglades. Now this is the that abandoned road, not abandoned, but deserted, desert, desolate, whatever you want to call it. Ain't nothing going on. This is that road, and then this is the little waste management. So this is a picture of the side of the road where they found the scene that was staged. So the broken glass, the shell casings, and all of that were all found right here. So it was all along this area. Now, the purple shows their route back, and they haven't gotten into what happened after right here. So we haven't heard any of that information yet, where they were for the between 4:06 and 4:35. We haven't heard anything about where the car was yet. So I will add that, and we will update that as things come out. But at 4:06 a.m., this camera caught the Jeep going back east. Now, remember, at 4:02, that's when they said that Melly got out of the car over here, and there were 70 steps recorded and all of that. So that's that. Now, the defense openings. There's a couple main things that they point out in the defense. So he says his major points are that there were reasonable doubt. He said, hold on, let me pull this up. All right, so he says that the state can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Melly did this. He said that Melly would need a motive to kill his two best friends, and he says that there was not a motive. And he said that the Detective Moretti just basically saw a rising star, with a promising career, and he wanted to make this a star case. Now, one thing I will say, the lack of motive has been one of the things that has been talked about a lot, because you would have to have a motive to kill your two best friends, but you would also think there would be a motive to kill anybody, right? This lack of motive thing has been has caused a lot of speculation, but there is an interview that Anjanette did with Juvie's dad. This is Christopher Thomas Sr. Goodness gracious. Y'all are choking me up. Okay. So in that interview, we talked about it a little bit on here. If you haven't seen it, I recommend going to see it. But he says, and now this is not state evidence. This is the victim's dad. But he says that he believes it was over money because of they were coming into a good deal of money with the brand, and he believes that he wanted to get rid of Juvie and Sack, basically to possibly keep all of the money, not have to share it. There's also a video that it's one of the links that I have that I'll put on the stuff that I put out later today, but I can't really play it on here because, again, it ain't that kind of party here. Because there's a lot of not PG-13 stuff in there. But there's a video where Jamie, who is Melly's mom, is saying that something about calling into question the street cred of Sack and saying, that he possibly threatened her with a gun, but she says her guns are bigger, and she calls him a couple of very derogatory names that I would not repeat and I would not have on my channel, which is why we are not going to play it, but I will post a link when I put everything out later today. So that has caused speculation for a motive for that too. If for some reason Sack threatened her with a gun and she, if there was beef between them and then Melly got involved or whatever. And then the third motive I've heard is about racy pictures being sent between from his girlfriend to one of the others, but I haven't seen. I've heard that rumor. I have not seen anything whatsoever to substantiate it. So I want to throw that out there. I only know it as a rumor. But I mean, they're all rumors. So who knows? The other thing that the defense does in the openings is mention possible other leads. Now, he says there are social media accounts that, and I tried to pull a couple of them up, and I saw them on the court papers where they did have a subpoena to pull the information from a lot of the social media stuff to kind of see, what's true and what's not. But he said Robert Colburn owns a social media account called Brackwoods that posted something about, we killed these two guys. But when they talked to him, he said he created the account and sold it to someone else for $20. Now, the defense is like, okay, well, why would you ever sell an account for $20? That's actually really common. People will get an account up and going and get, try to get people built up following it, and then they'll sell it. They acted like that's like, who would ever do that? But it's actually not very, it's pretty common. So that was one possible other lead that he mentioned for the social media stuff. And he also said David Hetchpack, I think was the name he said. He said that he had a Twitter called Kushel Almighty, I think is what it was. And he said that Twitter account posted a confession saying something about how they came at that Jeep. And he said that the police didn't talk to that guy for like over a year and a half. And when they finally did talk to him, he said that that wasn't it wasn't real. He was just trying to create, a beef or drama between people. And he said that when it happened, it couldn't have possibly been him because when it happened, he was at work. Defense says that they never verified that he was at work. So that was one of their other possible leads. Now, the Nia Hewitt and Vontrell Roll. Okay, so Nia Hewitt, I found information on. I could not find Vontrell Roll, and I don't even know if I'm spelling it right. So if anybody has information on that, you could email it to me. I tried to pull as much of everything as I possibly could, and I went on a deep dive and spent like the majority of my life on this for the last 3 days. So, but I could not find anything on Vontrell Roll. Now, Nia Hewitt is doing time or was doing time in jail. I also found Nia Hewitt had a Twitter. She's not very active on it now, but she had some social media stuff. And Jamie, Melly's mom, was following her. So she knows, I guess she's kind of linked in with the group. Now, she said that, in defense, they said that there was a jailhouse call between Nia and Vontrell that was talking about details of the murder. And she, defense said that when they interviewed Nia, she said that asking her how she knew, she said word on the street. And they said that they never interviewed Vontrell Roll, or however you say his name. Like I said, I could not find information on him, and it's probably because I'm spelling his name wrong. But I don't think this is the flex that the defense thought it was, though, because them saying that, oh, Nia Hewitt had information on it. Okay, but Nia Hewitt is kind of involved with Melly and his family. So I probably would have left that option out, but that's just me. I'm not an attorney. I don't know anything. The other lead that he said, they didn't follow up on is what he said is the most obvious, and that is Bortland or Cortland Henry. The things he says about Bortland, he said that the lies that were told were his lies. He said that he's the one who lied about when and how the shooting occurred. He said that he changed shirts. We're going to get into that too. They're making a big deal about the changed shirts, but I want to tell you why it's not that big of a deal, in my opinion. But again, I'm not an attorney. What do I know? So he said that there were 3 people in the car and there were 3 phones in the car. He said that when Bortland was released, he went to whatever location he went to, and police never searched that location. Basically, he said that would be the most obvious lead, and he feels like that wasn't explored. Which, okay, but also he's also charged with murder, so I don't know. But I think that they're wanting to paint that doubt in the jury's mind. So that's the opening statements. All right. So day 1 and 2 is basically kind of, these are our witnesses, and we're not going to go through every single thing that every single one said. I will get to I will do like a summary of what we learned from all of them. But we had the information given to them about, it started with Jessica here, who was on duty at the ER. She was the working security or patrol that night or whatever at the ER. So she talks about, she's kind of the first witness up, and she's the one who starts setting the scene of how this all started. So, and then of course we have road patrol that night, and then the homicide detective got involved, and then the CSI, the sheriff's department who took, he was the one who took Melly's fingerprints, and then we had the fingerprint analyst who said that she matched those fingerprints that he took to some stuff from the crime scene, and it matched Melly's fingerprints. That Melly's fingerprints were a match for stuff at the crime scene. So this is all basically the beginning parts of the investigation. Now, the detective, the homicide detective, Hector, is the one who told us, like, he went over the map, and he actually showed a picture of the map and the way that they search things. What was interesting about him too is that when they did his cross-examination, the defense attorney got a little bit like strong arm with him. He was like, you need to be straight up. And he said something about how there's evidence showing something else, and kind of pushing him to, say something else. Now, another person that is being thrown into this a lot is Francois, Jameson Francois. He is the manager of Melly, and he goes by, they call him Track or 100K or 100K Track or Francois, all the same dude. If they had less aliases, it would make charting all this crap a lot easier. But alas, here we are. Something funny. You know what? Let's show a little something funny while we're here too. Hold on. I'm gonna mute it because it's on a. This was at that about the time that they were doing all this. This is smell number 1. This is get a whiff of that. Get a whiff of that. No clue why he keeps smelling himself, but who knows? There's so many weird things that happen with this. All right. So let's see. Oh, and then let's see. Day 2, we have 2 more CSI witnesses. We had Idri Bagini. What was her real name? I'm sorry, I can't remember. And then we had the guy with the really lovely thick hair. Didn't get their names. Should have. I have it somewhere on my notes, but I'm not digging through it right now. We can look it up later. All right. So Maycock, wasn't it? No, that was the other one. I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway. All right. So the um, the this is all more of the CSI stuff. The defense wanted to create doubt with some of this, saying with some of her stuff saying that I think she had marked on her reports that she had changed gloves like 5 times, but she said she really probably changed about 20 times. And he made a big deal about this because he was saying that she said that when she's collecting evidence from the scene, if like the example she gave is like the pocket in the back of the seat in the car. She said if she pulled everything from there, she's not going to change gloves for each individual piece in that. It's all from the same group. So she uses the gloves from that group to get that group out. And he said those things haven't necessarily touched, so it could cause cross contamination. So that was his biggest point with her, was having her say that because she didn't mark every single time that she swapped gloves in her report, that it's possible for cross contamination and therefore creates doubt. Now, this fella right here is the one who took pictures of the Jeep and all of that. So we'll get to that. Now, one of the other things we saw. Okay, so these are day 2. We did a lot of video footage. Now, they didn't give us any context, and sometimes they'll enter the video footage while they have a witness on the stand, and they'll say, okay, I'm entering this into evidence, and then they'll go through and say what it is. This is not one of those cases. This is one of the cases where they enter it into evidence without anybody on the stand, and we just watch it. Now, we will probably view it later, for different things, but and go over it, but they gave us no context. But you know me, I'm a digger, so I went looking at everything again, and here's a few things I found. Number one, this is Melly walking out. He clearly has a cell phone in his hand. And I took a screenshot of it, but when you watch the actual video itself, you can see it is very clear it's a cell phone. Even when he walks, you can see it lighting up and stuff. He has a cell phone in his hand. So one of the things that they were saying about how, it might not be his cell phone, and, he didn't, you don't know whose cell phone it was, and it could have been anybody's. He has it in his hand. We also know he had it with him after everything happened because of the communication. So I think that even though they didn't point this out, I think that's a big thing to notice on this. Another thing, defense made a big deal about Bortland. They said he changed clothes. Okay, when I went back and watched, you can see he's got a hoodie in his hands right here. When he's leaving the studio, and now this is October 26th in South Florida, so it's not going to be freezing cold, but Florida does get chilly in the evenings sometimes, so who knows? You carry around layers for that reason. I have a jacket in my car. I have a hoodie in my car. So this is when he's walking out, you can see this is a black hoodie. So when they said something about, how I think defense said it in the opening statement about how it was really suspicious that Bortland even changed clothes before he went. He didn't change clothes, but he did put on a hoodie that he had with him. If it was going to be one of those things where he was changing clothes to hide something, he would have taken off the shirt that had the blood on it. It wasn't like a ton of blood, but there was like I think we saw in the stuff that there was a blood spot on the front and on the back. Sorry, my kid's texting me. Mom duty calls. All right, so if he was trying to hide something on the shirt, he would not have, I think he would have taken that t-shirt off. But he still had it on. And he had the hoodie on over it. Now, one of the things too, they did test him for GSR, but they did not test his clothes for it. Now, this shirt that he's wearing is there's a guy who films like all of their videos, and his name is Drew. He has like this thing. It's like if Drew didn't film it, then but anyway, this, you can't see it in this picture that much, but you can see it when he's walking. There's like a very specific it looks like a camera thing. Anyway, Drew Filmed It is the one who does all their videos, and this is a shirt of his. So we know it's the same shirt that he's leaving. Even though you can't really make it out what it is, I can tell because it's got that same emblem. So this is the same shirt that has the blood on it that they tested. But the hoodie that he has in his hands is not just he went somewhere and changed clothes. It's something he had with him. I think that's important. So it's one of the things I wanted to point out that nobody has said yet in court about him having it with him. And I just thought that was kind of weird. One of the other things. Okay, so they went through all of this stuff. And we were like, why are they showing all of his, driver's license stuff and all that? One of the things that they filed in the court papers was that trying to say that Melly was not a Florida resident. And so all of this is showing that he was a Florida resident, and he it had his proof of address and all of that stuff. His application for his driver's license where it was reinstated, his highway motor vehicle records. It had his Vero Beach address, and then it had his mom's address, all that kind of stuff. So that's part of what I found that I thought might be important from that. Let's see what else. There was in the video too. Let's see. Oh, that's the gun stuff. I might not have it on there yet. I might have it on my thing that I was gonna, for what I'm putting out tonight. There was, here, let me just pull it up. We'll just watch it. All right, day 2. All right, let's see. Let's see. Okay, so make sure I hit play. What just happened? All right, so this is when they're walking out. So just so that you don't take my screenshot as fact, so you can see it yourself. I'll show this. My little fan died. Where'd it go? Let's see. They're walking out. See, he's got a hoodie in his hand right there. You can see it moving around. So all of the stuff about how he, like how they're saying like he, possibly went somewhere and changed clothes. He didn't. He had the hoodie with him. All right. Also, let's see while we're on this. There's Melly's about to walk out, and you can see it's easier to see on this than it is my screenshot. You can see he has the phone in his hand. See? Also, he has that satchel going across him. That is, if you notice when he walks, is weighted down. So that is more than likely the theory of where the gun was. And then if you notice, he has a satchel as well. And I don't believe that was Juvie. I don't believe that was in the car when they searched it. And then let's see. I think that's it for most of that. All right. And then that timestamp too, for when Melly had his phone, the last timestamp of when it shows Melly had his phone in his hand was at 3:18 in the morning, like 3:18 and 35 seconds or something like that. And of course, we know they left at 3:19. So he had his phone in his hand when they left. All right. So the things that we know about, let me move this again. I'll keep it up in case we need to go back. The things that we know about all of the witnesses from days 1 and day 2. This is kind of what was laid out with them. The things that they pointed out, the Jeep was a rental car. The rental agreement is listed for Jameson Francois, which, like I said, is 100 track, or it's the manager. They call him a 100K track and Francois and all that. Anyway, it was in his name. His name has been coming up a lot. He is the manager. You can tell that defense is kind of pushing him as a potential guilty party in this, because they have brought him up multiple times. But his name is on the rental agreement for that. His name is on the apartment where they searched. He comes up in the Instagram messages where Felicia's mom is talking about the, how we'll get to that part in a minute. Anyway, his name comes up a lot. So the defense said that, well, let me go back. Okay. So they collected items from the car to process. They got DNA, fingerprints. They had 2 people that took about 14 to 15 hours to process the Jeep. And this is all about 7 hours after it happened. So they collected that rental agreement that I said is in the manager's name, Francois. She said she doesn't recall anybody going back to and searching again after that, but they did get latent fingerprints while they were there. Now, the fingerprints, if you'll remember, we had this guy took Melly's fingerprints when he booked him. This lady analyzed the fingerprints and they matched. So Melly's fingerprints were at the crime scene. Now, the video, I'm so upset because if you remember on, I think it was at the end of day 2, the video feed cut out. So I know that it was State's Evidence 27 that his fingerprints matched, but there's nothing, and I've gone back, there's nothing in the video that says where they were collected from other than the scene. So I'm curious to know, but because if it's just on the Jeep door or something, that's not surprising because we know that he got in there. But I'm still digging to see if I can find anything on that. So they also said the driver's floorboard under the pedals, there was a projectile that was found. They said on February 6th, they collected glass from the Jeep to match the glass found on US 27. They let us know that when they were searching the Jeep and they were looking for everything, one of the bullets that was fired shows that the car was not in motion when it was fired. It actually went into the door jamb of the back driver's, like the rear driver's side seat or door jamb. So that means that let me show you. So right here, this door was open because think about if this door is open. Okay, the door is now right here. Think about that little, you've got like that area about this big that's like where it has like the speakers and the, some cup holder and stuff like that. There's like that area on the door and the door jamb, right? So that part's open and it's all right here. A bullet went right into that part. So now the evidence shows that not only was the car not in motion when those shots were fired, but also that the door where we saw Melly getting into the car, that door was open. So that don't look good. All right, and then they did the trajectory analysis. Okay, so let's look at that. Let's look at trajectory analysis first. All right, so this is the trajectory analysis. Okay, so this is a huge deal because if nothing else, this proves that the drive-by was staged. So, all right. First of all, if we look at the autopsy, the stuff from the medical examiner, and we look at the trajectory where they did, they took everything and did the, strings and all of that, everything lines up to come to this. So I'm not going to go over every single piece that each of those witnesses did, but I'm going to tell you what it all sums up to. All right. So remember we had right here is where we saw Melly getting into the car. Right here, we saw Sack, and back here we saw Juvie, and up here Bortland was driving. Okay. So the red lines indicate the trajectory pattern of the bullets based on the where they hit in the car and where they hit the victims. So let's look at Sack first. All right, so the bullet shows it came from right here and came upward. Okay, so if this is the view, like if you're sitting, it's the closest I could find anyway. If you're sitting in the back seat and if you're sitting in the back driver's side and this is the front passenger side, this is the best I could find as far as where the where it looked like how it kind of looks. So the neck is where the entry wound started, and it goes from the back left to the front right and upward. So if it's starting back here and coming up here and it had enough velocity on it to go through entry wound and exit wound and still bust out the not windshield, but the passenger window, it was done. It came from the back seat. There's no way around it. It came from the back seat. And judging on the entry wound and the damage to the car, both of those corroborate that. Now, the one to Juvie, this right here, if you're sitting beside him, this one was a shot to the face, left to right, and the stippling burn shows that it was very close range. And they said between 3 inches to 18 inches. Now, the reason that 3 inches to 18 inches is such a wide gap, which is not really that wide of a gap, but when it comes to like stippling stuff, it is because they don't have the murder weapon. They have, they went over hours and hours of how they were able to test it and still get it to this, but they don't have the actual murder weapon. Based on the shell casings, they are able to determine, which we'll get into that part in a minute too, they're able to determine what kind of gun it came from, as far as, narrowed it down to, there's like 15 different versions of the type of gun it could come from. Based on that variable, they know that it would be 3 inches to 18 inches based on the burns. So 3 inches to 18 inches coming from directly from this direction, and from left to right it's obviously not a drive-by. So we know for a fact both shots came from where Melly was sitting when he got in on the studio footage. So that's number one. Number two, from the bullet trajectory stuff that we found out, the rear shots that were fired to make it look like a drive-by were fired straight through. Now, think about like this. Okay, if this were really a drive-by, somebody is not going to come straight behind your car and shoot forward and then come straight beside your car and shoot, perpendicular. That's not how drive-bys work. So that alone, that trajectory shows that the shots the car was not in motion. The shots went straight forward on one side, and then on the side where they were shot forward into the car. One other big thing from the trajectory of the shots that were fired from the outside, the wounds, if it were a drive-by, the way that they would have, like the bullet path through the body would have been different if either the victims were sitting up as opposed to the position that they were in. So the position that they were in when they were slouched over after they had already been killed shows that the bullets that entered in from the outside entered after they were already dead and while they were slunched over like this, which creates a different bullet pattern or bullet pathway in their bodies. So that's that. If nothing else, whether you think Melly is guilty, not guilty, whatever, if nothing else, this proves beyond a reasonable doubt that the drive-by between this and the glass matching and all of that, the drive-by is BS. There wasn't no drive-by. And there's nothing you can say that will ever make this be a drive-by in my mind. There's absolutely no evidence to prove it was a drive-by, and there's every single piece of evidence possible to prove it wasn't. So it's a BS story, and we all know it. So the trajectory stuff was pretty interesting. Now, as far as the bullets go, while we're talking about all of this, let's see. I'm looking at some of y'all's comments. Everybody can have their own opinions and stuff, but if we put in fake information, I'm going to delete it just so y'all know. All right, let's see. So as far as the bullet stuff, so this was a long and tedious day. Very long and tedious day listening to all of this. So they spent a lot of time over this, which they have to, and I get it. It's it's like this with all ballistics or gun experts. When they come in, they have to explain everything to the jury, from the way that the the way that the gun works to, how, like, even like, what this is, like the, firing pin and the marks it makes, and how bullets work, and basically just everything. Gosh, it takes forever. So the they had a shell casing, of course, that they found in the seat where Melly was sitting when he got in the car leaving the studio. It was in the back driver's side floorboard. So that's the only shell casing they had in the car. When they went to the side of the road and took the dogs out there and looked for everything, they found 8 more. So they have no murder weapon, but they have one shell casing that came from inside the car, and they have the ones on the side of the road. Now, they marked the or compared the glass, and the glass did match. So, and that part was a whole different testimony, but and very technical stuff. But the shell casings were a bit harder. Now, this is going to be probably one of the biggest things the defense has going for them, is that there's no murder weapon. So the reason that this one took so long is because they had to do a lot of testing on all of the shell casings to see, to narrow things out. Now, if you don't know, you can look at, the caliber of the gun or caliber of the bullet, and, you can look at different things and kind of tell where it came from. Like you're not, it will automatically, whatever kind it is, will automatically rule out a lot of different things, but you still have a lot of things that you have to kind of narrow down as you go, which is the process that he went through to explain how they got from it could have been any of these guns to how it had to be one of these, 15 different types of whatever. It's a very long process. So, also we mentioned the powder, the stippling burns and how that works. So he explained all of that. Having to go through the different variables of things that we don't know, how they accounted for those to get these answers and all of that. So that's why this part took so long. All right. So the shell casings that we looked at. Okay, first of all, let's do this because this part's easy. This is the stippling part. This is his little drawing of how he tried to explain the stippling. So the way that we talked about it is, if you're throwing sand at a wall and you throw it, and the wall's right here, and you throw it, the sand's only going to make it this far. If you're throwing sand, at a wall that's way over there and you throw it, it's going to be way more spread out. Well, that's how stippling works. So the fact that the stippling was more concentrated, there's more of it in a small spot as opposed to it being spread out in a larger spot. That's how they determined that it was so close up. So again, that would not happen with a drive-by. So whether or not you think guilty or innocent as far as Melly goes, the one thing we know for sure right now is that it wasn't a drive-by. You can't get stippling burns right here if you're getting a drive-by on this side. It's just not how life works. So they explained that part. Then they go through all of the different information about what he can test, how it's tested, how you can come to these determinations without the murder weapon. The process that they go through to make sure that they don't swap the bullet, so that they can make sure that the, this one that was in the floorboard is not swapped, mixed up with the other ones. and all of the details. So the things that they compared, the grooves, the direction of the twists, because it has the, when a bullet comes out and it's twisting, it has the direction. So they'll either go in a, right-handed direction or a left-handed direction. So the direction of the twist, the bullet weight, the materials of what the bullet is made of, the type of jacket, the grain weight of the original bullet, the caliber, it was Smith & Wesson, the damage to the projectiles, looking at the projectiles under a microscope, all of that stuff. They look at the scratches and all of that. So this is what, I don't know if you can tell. See how right along this line, the shades of green are different? These are two different pictures that are, oops, look at me getting click happy. These are two different pictures where it's lined up so you can see. If you couldn't see the difference of the picture where it changes right there, you wouldn't really know. See how this lines up and this lines up and this lines up. So this is like all of these little, all of these things line up to show that with all of those variations lining up, that it, that would be a match. The let's see, the projectiles, so everything was the same caliber. They all had no more than 6 grooves. They were all right-hand twists. They were all copper and lead. They were all non-magnetic. They were all 40 caliber. Now, when they're looking at the projectiles, so let me show this because I tried to use my water bottle to explain this. Cartridge. I'll find a picture. Okay. So this is, okay, the projectile part up here, they had different tests that they did with those, and they had them separated into 2 groups. They were inconclusive, but there were agreement of some characteristics in one of the groups. And then in one of the other groups, there was no agreement or disagreement in characteristics. So basically, it was inconclusive, which isn't surprising. I think that there were 2 that they found, if I remember right, that they said could have, 2 that they said did come from the same weapon, but mostly that's just inconclusive, which is not surprising because keep in mind, this is the part that gets like the most, the most damage. So this part is the shell casing or cartridge casing. So this is the part that's going to get the grooves. And this is the part that's, going to have more of the, like the same scratches and that type of thing, based on how it comes out of, if it's coming out of the same barrel, shot from the same weapon. And then this part down here is for the bottom. And see this, like right there, the firing pin marks. So those are the things they look at. Now, for the projectiles, it didn't tell us a whole lot, but for the cartridge casings, this was the bigger part. The caliber, obviously the same. The composition, they were, whether it's brass on nickel, etc. The manufacturer, the ejector marks, maybe talk like the firing pin and stuff. The line, here, this part, the line, why can't I think of the word? Striations? Why can't I think of the word? Why can't I think of the word? Not enough sleep. What is the word? Do you ever do that? You have like the word and it's on the tip of my tongue. And anyway, whatever. The marks. There was they checked and there was no sealant present on any of them. Yes, Brad. Thank you. The word escaped me. Thank you. So see, I know that like when I have my old lady moments that y'all will be there to help me out. All right. So now going through all of these, all of those things that I just mentioned, all the things that they tested, they have come to the conclusion that there is only one firearm that fired them. There are only minute differences, but they were obviously fired from the same firearm. Now, they can say that one firearm produced the casings that they found, but as far as the projectiles go, there were only two that were certain from the same gun. Like I said, that's not that common, but or not that uncommon. But the shell casings are what the big daddy was on all of this evidence. Now, the defense, when they got up, of course, they're going to make note that they didn't find the murder weapon, but I think that the prosecution knew that that was going to be a big point of, questioning everything, which is why they spent so much time going over how they were able to test this without the weapon. So they did notice on, or make a point on the cross-examination about the projectiles, being inconclusive. But I think that they were possibly pointing that out, hoping that the jury picked up on that, and maybe after him being on the stand for like 84 years had zoned out, and that's the last thing they heard or remembered. So hard to say. All right, let's see. The next, who was up next after I Dream a Genie? It was that was it for that day, wasn't it? I think we had, oh gosh, our friend who, let me pull it up. Our friend who was in such a good mood and then did the trajectory pattern stuff. All right, let's see. Day. Oh, it is thundering out there. All right, here we go. So let's see. They go over some of the pictures of the bullet holes and stuff like this. Now, okay, so see how the bullet holes are right here. So this is one of the things that when they were doing the talk about, how they were fired, they gave the, approximate height of the shooter, but the height of the shooter is kind of a moot point. It's really not. There's so many variables that it really doesn't matter. So now some of the variables you can eliminate based on there being multiple shots. Okay, so if they're all fired basically in the same trajectory, then you know that it wasn't fired necessarily as somebody was falling or driving by, or there are some variables that you can eliminate, but there are some that you can't. So that one part of the estimated, and plus they said, I think the estimated height was between 4'8" and 5'10". So it was still a very, not much of any useful information. But the defense picked up on that part. It was this fella. The defense picked up on that part and came at him pretty hard about all of the work that he did. Now, and here's the thing. I have told everybody, I am, at this point, I have not made up my mind. I have ideas, but I have not made up my mind about guilt or innocence. I'm always open until I'm not. And right now I'm still open. Now, do I think the state has proven their case yet? No, but I think that, we're still early. We're still in day 4. So it might happen. It might not. Do I think that the defense has, made some great moves? Yes. But the main thing is that the things that they have proven so far prove what happened, but we still have to wait and see if they prove that it was Melly who did it. I don't feel like they've done that yet. They might not, like I said. But when I've made up my mind about something, then it's made up. Like, unless there's something that can change it. So one thing I've made my mind up about, based on the evidence alone, is where the shots came from and that it wasn't a drive-by. So so the person who called me biased because I said it wasn't a drive-by, okay, fine. I am biased. It wasn't a drive-by. It's BS. If anybody thinks it was a drive-by, that's fine. That's your opinion. There's no evidence I've seen to say anything otherwise. Now, as far as, because this part was something that I noticed in chat, everybody was very much kind of one side or the other. So I want to be sure that I make it clear, I am not on one side or the other. I am pro-justice, not pro-defense, not pro-prosecution. I am pro-justice. So, but I want to point out 2 things about this whole situation. This guy, bless his heart, he went in and he was in such a good chipper mood, and that didn't last, did it? This guy had a whole series of information based on what he's trained to do. When defense got up there, he picked out a couple things from it, oversimplified it, said his whole testimony and all of his stuff was useless, and the whole thing turned to crap. Now, here's what I want to say about that. I don't believe that everything he did was crap. There's a lot of good information in there. Do I think that the estimated height of the shooter is accurate? No, but that was a small part of all of this. And it wasn't. So I think that some of the stuff that was picked out and picked apart was not the point of it anyway. But let me say this. The defense attorney did a fantastic job as far as defense attorneys go on the cross-examination of this, because whether or not you like him or don't like him, or whatever side you're on, just from an attorney standpoint, the way he conducted this cross-examination and kind of got this guy rattled did a lot for the defense, I think, because he basically was able to have take the entire trajectory stuff and dismiss it as BS, and have this guy kind of rattled enough to go along with that, even though that wasn't the totality of it. Does that make sense? So he, as a defense attorney, this was one of those moments where I was like, dang. It was pretty intense. I wonder, and that Drew filmed it thing I said, remember? Drew filmed it. This is that shirt that he was wearing. That's the little icon on there. So he's going over Portland stuff, and then he shows the stuff that was like the blood that he got on him and stuff like that. Now, this is when defense attorney gets up. I'm trying to... Oh, and when he did get him rattled, and he was trying to say, you know, anything is possible, he got him to say, he was like, yeah, anything is possible. It's also possible you could have cheated on your bar exam or something like that. I was like, oh, dang. It got a little heated. Let's see if I can find
observations you made on the clothing that belonged to Portland Henry.
Okay.
You analyzed a sweatshirt and a t-shirt, right?
What I would call it a hoodie.
A hoodie.
Yeah.
A hoodie,
T-shirt.
and a t-shirt.
Correct.
And you found any blood on the hoodie?
No. Not on the hoodie.
But you found blood on the t-shirt.
Yes. Underneath the hoodie.
You found blood on the t-shirt underneath the hoodie, both in the front of that t-shirt and in the back.
Kill shots came from
That's
inside,
correct.
Okay.
based on medical examiner.
One second.
Woo! Lightning just hit like right outside my place.
Was there ever a time that you went inside the vehicle
Which
and issued the gray Jeep that we've seen several pictures, photographs? You never retrieved any of the items from inside.
That's correct. I did not retrieve anything. The only time I really went inside that Jeep was when we had the search warrant for when I attached the strings and rods. Yes, that's correct.
I should have wrote down the
And
time.
you were telling us that in your report
But again, you said it was 5:30.
that you changed latex gloves during the process of your handling of evidence,
That is correct.
but you don't necessarily document each time that you.
I usually put in the body of my report, I changed the left, change it left to this one, and so forth. So, to make it more.
So, the way that you phrase it in your reports is that I change my gloves frequently to indicate.
The purpose of this is so we don't create any contamination. Now, my DNA.
Another way that you can contaminate.
Why? Because I changed gloves with them. I don't touch the evidence with my bag.
I can't find it.
Another way that you can
I wanna
contaminate
see him say
evidence, as opposed to putting your own DNA and fingerprints on it, is by transferring DNA from one item that you are handling to another set of gloves, right?
Correct.
And then when you're gonna handle another item, you change gloves. General procedure, it's a necessary procedure, or you could engage in cross-contamination. You're a supervisor
Correct.
in this area, articles in the same location. Is it still proper to change your glove?
My gloves, even though it's in the same area.
And why do you do that?
I don't create any cross-contamination. The command staff always complain about the cost, which using too many gloves. Unfortunately, it's part of the job. Changing gloves.
Thank you. Nothing further.
I don't.
Sure, is there any redirect?
Briefly,
Goodness gracious. I was trying to find it. The part where he says,
The lowest, the shortest
possible.
shooter height that you approximated was 4'8".
This is the whole thing
Right.
about the.
That's what that said is that the approximate angle from that with a 4'8", yes.
Approximate angle or approximate height?
I mean, approximate height, I'm sorry.
Okay. And you also approximated a height of 5'3".
Yes, I did.
And you approximated a height
Oops.
of 10.
I did.
And you approximated a height of 4'9".
I did.
And you approximated a height of 5'1".
Correct.
Okay. Let's get back now to the blood analysis or swab.
I was trying to find it. I'm not going to listen to the whole thing. I'll find the clip for it later and post it. But there was that moment that was a little heated. All right, let's see. Let's move on because I don't want to spend all day trying to find their little argument. Although it was really entertaining, I guess. I like it when they all get a little rowdy with each other. It shows passion. All right, so I think that's pretty much it for the day 1, 2, and 3 stuff that was interesting. Before we get to day 4, because that's a whole big mess. I want to go over this part just in case I lose power too, because it's storming like crazy out there. All right, so the PCA, there's a couple things that I want to point out because the first graphic I did was based on the times that she mentioned in the hi baby girl, the times that she mentioned in opening statements, but the PCA has different times. So I wanted to touch on this because there, in case you see any inconsistencies and things, there's a couple things. So I wanted to go over this real quick. The PCA shows the same thing we said, like the car, the CCTV catches them at 3:46. Now remember, this one's home 3:49, no big deal. They went home like the well-behaved little rappers they are. The Jeep, however, shows that it passed the CCTV at 3:46. Cell phone evidence shows it came up again 3:53, over, all that. Okay, so here's according to the PCA. At 4:02, Melly exits the car, stages the drive-by. At 4:06, it was spotted again on the CCTV going east up here. Okay, so this is where things vary. At 4:20, that's when in opening statements they say that Melly exited the car, FaceTimed his girlfriend and her mom. At 4:25, the PCA says that Melly and Zach's phones were moving. Now, I want to be clear. Anytime I have just like a theory or an idea or whatever, and I don't have enough information to form like a full opinion on it yet, I try to make sure y'all know this is just an idea based on the information I have right now. At 4:25 on the PCA, it says that Melly and Zach's phones are moving together. And now one of the things they pointed out was that they had the same make and model of phone. So I'm wondering, and this is again just a theory, I guess we'll find out more as things happen, but based on everything I've seen, I'm wondering if she said that he got out of the car at 4:20, but the PCA shows that at 4:25, Melly and Zach's phones were still moving together. At 4:32, it says Melly separates from Zach's phone. So, and then at 4:35, Bortland arrives at the hospital with the victims. So I'm wondering, when he got out the first time, or when he got out at 4:20, if they had the same make and model phone, did maybe he grab his phone too? The way that the PCA is worded, it makes this, and like I said, we'll find out more, and I could be wrong, but just based on the way things are worded, it sounds like they were moving together, but it doesn't mention Juvie's phone. So I'm wondering if, and she said he got out at 4:20, but at 4:20, if his phone and Zach's phone are still moving what it sounded like together, I'm wondering if, he had his phone too or something, if he grabbed his by mistake because it was the same make and model. And then at 4:32, Zach's phone is in the Jeep. Melly separates from Zach's phone, and it's only 3 minutes later that Bortland pulls into the hospital with the victims. Okay, then less than 10 minutes after that is when he sends the first thing to Fredo Bang, the first location pin drop, and then 11 minutes later sends the other one. So that's going to be something I want us to all pay attention to as evidence comes out, because that's one of the little details I picked up on the PCA PCA is probable cause affidavit. Sorry. That's one of the things that I picked up on that I am wanting to get more information about. So that's one thing. Let's see. I think that's all of that stuff. This is one of the things. Again, Melly's picture's gone for some reason. As far as the Instagram stuff goes and stuff like that, I've got a whole separate thing that I'm going to do on that. But this is a small part of it. Melly, this is one of the things that they brought up. Melly tells his girlfriend, Mariah, that Bortland saved his life and he's going to keep him everywhere with him, because if they come grab him, he said, it's my fault, you forgot. And he tells her that Bortland did one of the realest things in his life. Now, there's a lot of language in a lot of the stuff that I can't and won't use. So that's why I'm not going to put a lot of that stuff in here. I'm just kind of summarizing. But it's definitely something to look at. And like I said, I'm going to put a lot of links together of some stuff that I just can't go over online. All right. So day 4 was insane. Let's see. I had the first lady up, and I didn't do timestamps on this one because I ran out of time because I was digging through court papers. I think we got started. Oh, they get real laughy during a lot of this too. So the day 4 starts with is it Kelso, I think was the name. This is all before court. This lady, Kelso, she is the GSR lady. So, this is part that is talked about a lot too. Now in the PCA, it says that they did and she talks about it, they did the presumptive test for GSR on Bortland's hands. They did not test his clothing, but they tested his hands. So the GSR is one of those things that it's admissible, but only as like a screening type thing. It's not like a hardcore yes or no especially if there's not a lot of particles, because other things can cause certain. Okay, let me try to explain it like this. The original test, like the presumptive test that they did on Bortland's hands, was negative. They did a lab test and it came back as positive. Now, there are what they call 2-component particles in GSR, and 2-component particles means it can come from something else. So it may test positive, but it could be positive from something else other than just GSR. But it tests for like nitrogen particles. So the presumptive tests are just looking for nitrates, and it's just used as a screening tool. So one of the things that, in the PCA, it said that he tested negative for GSR on his hands, Bortland did. And then, of course, you heard in defense openings, he said that, and he said it a couple times since then, that Bortland has tested positive for GSR. So they're both correct, but that's why. That's where that differentiation is coming from, because he tested negative on the presumptive test and positive on the lab test. So that's that. On cross, I know that they asked this lady, do you know if he washed his hands or changed clothes? Any of that stuff. And she said that she did not know. Now, then the next part of day 4 is, I didn't do charts on these because we're just going to pull it up. This is the GSR stuff. And because I ran out of time, if y'all knew how much I've deep dove into all this. So they're going over his Snapchat stuff. So they're wanting to, oh, hello, Ritz. We have a new member. Hello. Welcome. It is lightning bad out there. If I lose internet, then this will all shut down and we'll just start up later when the storm's over. But just so y'all know. Okay, so they're going through the Snapchat stuff. So they're wanting to figure out what's admissible and what's not. So here's the thing with the Snapchat. Part of why, can y'all hear that thunder? Can you hear it on the microphone? I have my little thing to where it's like crazy out there right now. Anyway, thunder and lightning are distracting me. So one of the big things in this is it's all based on, like, him pulling the trigger is all based on phone evidence. So that's why the Snapchat and all of this stuff is so important, because they are wanting to show that he had his, more lightning. He had his phone on him before, during, and after the murders. So part of that is showing his Snapchat. Now they need to show that, they said they wanted to show without any doubt that this is definitely his Snapchat account. So they're wanting to show different, like, videos and things to show that this is his account. So they're going through some of it, and the judge decided that some of the stuff will come in, but the stuff with guns and money and his lyrics, like the Murder on My Mind stuff, all of that is not going to come in. It's not able to come in because it is considered more prejudicial than probative. So that's the Snapchat stuff. Now, they are wanting to basically authenticate that it is his. Now, the defense tells the prosecutor, basically, identify what you want in there, because there is some stuff in there that she says is basically a confession to everything. So he tells her, as they're fighting back and forth forever, he tells her, identify what you think is a confession. And he says, if you violate the judge or the judge's order, that's a you problem. Whew. I'm going to get blown away out here, y'all. So they fight over this for a while. Let's see. I wonder if I wish I'd have wrote down the timestamp for that. I don't think I did, though. I don't guess I did. Anyway, so they go back and forth about that for a while. Now, the defense says that, you know what, we will not. Ooh. It's getting scary out there. The defense said that they will not argue that it's his account. They will agree that it's his account without playing all of the other videos. But prosecution wants to, say that she says, nope, we want to eliminate all doubt. So, so they go through some of this and figure out, figure out what they're going to show. Now, after all of this is when we get into, let me find, day 4 was all just back and forth fighting. Let's see.
Yes, it's there.
That's not. Which was interesting if you're into the legal side of it, but not if you're not. Okay, so after all of the Snapchat stuff, we get into Miss Felicia Holmes. Now, we are going to talk a little bit about what's happening here, and then I am going to, once this part is over, I am going to pull some of the, or I've already got it pulled, but we are going to look at some of the paperwork and her arrest paperwork and all of that kind of stuff. So, and the messages that we're going to get into. This is a whole big mess. So this witness is what has led to what we will find out tomorrow morning if it's going to be a mistrial or not. So now the very first thing that we hear from her when she gets in here is that she feels threatened.
Have a seat. Ms. Holmes?
Yes, sir.
That microphone in front of you does not move back and forth. It'll just up and down, but not back and forth.
Okay.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
Counsel, you may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Holmes.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Not good.
Are you cold?
No, I'm just, you know, I don't feel comfortable.
Are you nervous?
I feel threatened.
So, Ms. Holmes, I want to start and just talk about
Okay, so you notice when she says, I feel threatened, that she did not go into any questions about who she feels threatened by. Okay, now watch how she reacts when she's asked about
who
Melly.
is Mariah Hamilton.
My name is daughter.
And how old is Mariah?
She's 22 right now.
And Mariah, did she have a romantic relationship with someone named Jamell, also known as YNW Melly?
Yes, she did.
When was she involved in that romantic relationship with Melly?
I think maybe 2016 or so till maybe 2019, 20.
Okay. Did you have the opportunity to meet Mr. Dennis?
Yes, I did.
What did you refer to him as?
I call him Jamell Melly.
Did you see him here in the courtroom?
Yes, I did.
Where is he?
Watch.
He's right here.
And what's he wearing?
The white turtleneck and a gray jacket.
You're going to make a record reflected court identification of the defendant.
Yes.
Okay, so the way she said, I feel threatened, first thing I'm going to think is, okay, who's she feeling threatened by? Which side? Well, she made that very obvious when they asked about Melly, and she smiles at him like a proud mama. Now, this is interesting based on what we see come out later in just a little while. But here's the thing about her testimony. She is being difficult on purpose. She gave a deposition, but now she's saying, and she said all these things. Now the drilling starts. I can't catch a break today. So she's saying now she doesn't remember anything. She doesn't remember what she said. She doesn't remember if she was correct or not. Well, do you lie to police? Well, I would hope not, but I don't remember. Every single thing she's saying, I don't remember. So she says, they talk to her about, if I hand you your papers, will this refresh your memory? Or if I play your audio of what you said, will this refresh your memory? And she says no. When she says no, that's when we know there's no hope of her trying to say anything about what she said being true or not true or that she remembers it or not remembers it. When she says, nope, seeing what I said or hearing my own voice say what I said will not refresh my memory, we know in that moment that she ain't gonna say nothing. She is up there with her mouth closed. So her saying, I don't know if any of that is true or not anymore, means that they can't enter in her stuff that she said as evidence, because she is not a, in order for them to enter it in, she has to, say, yes, this is my statement and this is true, whatever. So they fight like cats and dogs this whole time over going back and forth with her testimony and what she remembers and what she doesn't. So the I'm trying to think of what else she said that we did get on the record that was important. She said that she met Sack twice. She met Juvie maybe once. She said that instead of saying, "Oh yes, I remember," instead of saying, "Oh yes, I remember," there being, him being on FaceTime saying there was a shooting and he was hiding in the bushes. Now she says, "Yes, I saw him on FaceTime, or saw his face on the screen. I assumed it was FaceTime." And she said that she, instead of hearing him say, "I was just in a drive-by, I think they're dead," now she said she, heard that there may have been a shooting or something like that. So she's asked about, let's get to this part real quick. She is asked about if, I think it was these two.
Were you asked if your prior
Objection.
statement?
Okay.
Proper impeachment.
I heard it over, you can ask your question, Counsel.
Ms. Holmes, prior to that deposition starting, were you given your prior statement to review?
Which mean,
Were
I
you?
understand, the deposition that I did on December 22nd? Yes, it was given to my lawyer yesterday, right before, briefly to look at, yes.
So the deposition you have, that was
It was given to my lawyer
right.
yesterday, yes it was.
So do you remember coming into that deposition?
Yes, I did, I was in jail, put in jail.
Correct.
I remember.
And so.
We'll get into that
So it's
paperwork.
clear in terms of you don't want to be here.
You're making me be here, yes, I have
Yes.
a house, a band on my leg, I'm a nurse, I can't even work properly, yes.
You were under house arrest because you failed to comply with the subpoena.
No, you're not
Excuse me,
certain.
sustain. Listen,
Oh, look, she and I have the same hairdo right now.
how we're gonna do this is you ask your questions, Counsel, ma'am, listen to her question, answer her question.
Yes, I
all
am,
right?
yes, sir.
Ma'am?
Okay. So going back to the deposition.
Yes.
On December 14th of 2022.
Yes.
Do you remember coming to my office?
Yes, I do,
Do you remember being asked questions at that time?
yes, I do.
Do you recall being given a copy of your prior statement of December 12th, 2018?
No, I don't remember that, I don't remember anything, but I'm pretty sure. I did.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is permission to approach her on it,
With what, Counsel?
her deposition.
Objection, Your Honor.
I have to give her an opportunity to review
I
this.
saw that.
Excuse me, no, there's no question pending review. All right, you can proceed, Counsel.
So counsel, I'm showing her page 10, line 10 through 17. Okay, so just read them silently to yourself.
Okay, so she's even giving her deposition, the stuff she said, trying to get her to say, "Remember, you told us this."
Were you asked if you need to make any corrections or deletions to the statement of December of 2018?
That's what the deposition said, usually.
And did you indicate that there was no corrections or deletions in the statements?
I don't remember, but that's what's on the deposition.
So December of 2022, you said that this is a correct statement.
Objection.
Sustain.
That Ms. Holmes is the December 2018 statement that you gave correct and honest.
Objection. Ask and answer.
Excuse me. You have to I don't understand you're trying to answer the question. So when they raise objection, let me answer this.
Okay, so when she keeps saying, okay, so is it your statement that you said this? Is it your statement that you said this? And they're objecting and it's sustained. They told the prosecution before, Felicia got up there that she wasn't allowed to do that. She can't enter in her deposition without the witness saying, yes, it's mine. That's what I said. That was, true and accurate, whatever. So it's important stuff because of what she said. It's such a huge part of how they, put everything together, but she can't enter it in without her validating it. Well, they know this. So there were papers that were, or motions that were filed to try to exclude from the defense where they tried to exclude having Felicia even testify. They wanted her testimony completely excluded. They wanted her daughters completely excluded. So they filed motion to not even allow them to be up there testifying, which of course didn't get approved. They don't want any of this stuff in. So now she's up here and she has amnesia suddenly. She doesn't remember anything. There's nothing you can say to make me believe that she's being honest about that. It's very obvious, because if she really didn't remember, and she would have said, okay, yes, I can look at my statement and whatever, but that's not what's happening. She's to me, and everybody's entitled to their own opinions. To me, she's lying because she doesn't want to be involved. She doesn't want to say one way or the other. And whether it's who she feels threatened by, one way or the other, who she feels loyalty to one way or the other, don't know her motives. It's not my job to speculate her motives, but I don't think she's being honest about remembering things and what she remembers. Now, this goes on with the prosecutor still pushing and still reading back the statements after she's been told she's not allowed to do that, because it's literally basically the prosecutor reading her statements back to her is trying to get those things on the record, trying to get the jury to hear those things without it being allowed to be entered in as evidence. So that continues. Now, let's get to this part.
Miss Felicia Holmes, and I'm showing the court now that she is previously identified as her specific Instagram, and that it is saying the promises that were made to us by YNW for me to quit my job and they would take care of us were all lies. They didn't want us talking with prosecutors, but now they have all disappeared. I quit my job based on what Track and his wife or company said. Now look, we can't go home. We're spending all my money I worked for, and they taking trips and enjoying life. If you think I was a beast before, wait until this trial. I'm not holding anything back. I'm doing what I should have done in the beginning. They can call me Miss Snitch Bitch. So, Judge, it's very clear from this record that my intention and what the witness has represented to me in all shapes and forms that she was going to be honest and truthful. So to say that it's improper for calling her just for the purposes of impeachment is incorrect. So to continue on in that same Instagram production, and this is in June of 2022, Felicia Holmes is saying, they made me quit, told me that they would take care of us until trial was over. But guess what? Lies as usual. I was making $9,000 weekly. I didn't need shit from them, but everyone begging and pleading. Now they all ghost. I got something for Track, though. He lied to me and my child for the last time. Again, saying you're going to air him out to the prosecutor. So, Judge, in terms of in defense of the representation of counsel, that she's just being called for impeachment.
Okay, so all of that was directly from her Instagram account. So again, these are things that she's wanting to enter in as evidence. But then when she gets up there, she doesn't remember anything once again. So it was kind of a mess. Now those messages sound pretty damning. Is this the part where, I was trying to get to the other smelly part that I think it might have been at the very end. If not, I put it on my. Okay, so let's watch the very end for the mistrial part, and then we'll get into the court docs.
If you don't mind, I'll have Mr. Alessine articulate what's
Oh,
This is your,
okay. This was something big too. When she asked about the being given money and taking care of bills and stuff like that, she said something about the defense giving her money. And she said defense. She didn't say defendant. She said defense. So this, okay. So when you're talking about defense in a trial, if you say defense instead of defendant, it implies the entire defense, like the defendant and his attorneys. So by her saying, where is it? I think it's,
a couple of cases, and again, the synopsis at the end of it, this is, I'm just reading again from the SL child case.
Same Instagram production, and this is making the last citation of counsel that she's just being called for impeachment. It's also clear that this witness has received multiple benefits from the defendant based on her own statements there, that she has endorsed that was her Instagram on that.
So, now there's a couple things going on here. Number one is you indicated that it was the testimony was going to be admitted because it was in essence,
So it doesn't go to the podium and blurt that number out. She just said she doesn't recall it. So what's the point of saying it other than to introduce it into the record through the state attorney's lips? The rules don't allow her to do what she's trying to do.
Thank you.
So you're in further support of treating the witness as a hostile witness. This has previously been provided to defense, but this is the Instagram production for Miss Felicia Holmes and a copy of the transcript.
Thank you.
well, I was going to find it again. If I had more time, I got all the court documents ready and then didn't get all the timestamps for this one ready. But she says, I went back and listened. She says defense. She doesn't say defendant. She says defense. So that's why they get so mad. And here we go.
Any question, because defense obviously wants to limit, because they know the contents of what this individual has said and all of the statements that she has made that are damaging to their client. Hence why the state would be seeking to use her as a witness.
They're mad.
That means nothing, Your Honor. The fact that it's damaging, I'll concede that. It's inadmissible. And the status of this impression that there is a catch-all, we're only trying to seek justice and do good.
Jury's not in the room.
To all the rules of evidence, and there is no such thing. If it's admissible, admitted through an admissible procedure. You don't try and end around the court's order and the case law by coming in on some pretext and doing exactly what I told the court would happen and create an entire prejudicial fiasco and introduce inadmissible evidence into the record. That's what occurred, and this jury has been irreparably prejudiced. Or that Mr. Demon's interests have been irreparably prejudiced before this jury.
Thank you. Anyway, I'm going to defer ruling, take it under advisement. We'll see everybody back on Tuesday. I suggest that you talk with.
Okay, so he's saying that they're taking it under advisement. So basically, defense is saying you can't unring that bell. Her saying, there's so much. It just kept going, and it was kind of uncomfortable to watch, but it was also kind of spicy. So it was also kind of interesting to watch. But the judge said that, he flat out says to her, you can't ask, did you say this? Or did you say this? Or your past recollection says this. You can't do that. You can't ask him about any of that. And then she does it anyway. So she's entering in things. or saying things in front of the jury that they can't unhear. And then the whole thing about, whether or not she's going to be taken care of by the defense, and the Instagram stuff, she said, is it your testimony that you never said this stuff? And she says it. And so they moved for mistrial because it was, she violated the rule. She did. No matter what side you're on, she violated that rule. It's important because, like I said, you can't unring that bell. She was told beforehand, you can't do this. She did it anyway. And now the fact that she said, when she said something about them taking care of her, her wording it as defense instead of just defendant implies that their entire legal team are trying to pay her off. And that's one of the things that, they get really upset about, obviously. Let's see if this is...
Out-of-court statements that are otherwise inadmissible, instead of at least admitting that that was what the state intended to do, advanced a ruse pretext that they were seeking to do so under 8035.
I agree.
It turns out that 8035, given the witness's testimony, could not be employed. And so the state then went back to plan one, the original one all along, of the state reading evidence from written documents and out-of-court statements, including police reports, statements on Instagram, arguments being had into the record. Through the state's own mouth, knowing very well that it was improper, that the court had ruled that it should not and could not be done, and it does not somehow become relevant because they declare hostility, which they knew about from the inception. The state made a representation to this court that it was a complete surprise. That's not a credible statement. I think it is incumbent upon this court to discern the veracity of that contention. There was a witness there, happened to be Ms. Holmes's lawyer. He's present. The state is essentially trying to circumvent the rules, circumvent the order of this court, and testify to this jury about documents and information that it wanted to put before the jury, which it found no permissible way to do. The court warned the state, I don't want you trying to go through the back door, which you can't get through the front door, and they launched immediately into that pursuit.
Which is what we were just saying.
The jury sat there while the state made implication after implication, introduced admissible evidence after admissible evidence to the substantial prejudice of this defendant. And so not only did they do it after we raised the issue, they did it after the court ruled against the state and admonished the state not to do just that. And they launched into that pursuit. Mr. Jennings has been prejudiced. This jury sat there and watched this fiasco unfold with at least 10, maybe 15 sidebars after every 2 questions, with the implications that were being all predicated on the implications and the inadmissible testimony that Ms. Bradley herself read into and spoke into the record. And for that reason, we think that it was deliberate. It is highly prejudicial. This jury has been tainted, and we move for a mistrial. Oh, there's one more thing. If you don't mind, I'll have Mr. Alstein articulate what's happening.
This is your motion for Mr. Allen?
Yes, it's our motion for mistrial.
There's a second one. All right, go ahead.
Well, yes, second one. Judge, in my entire career, I've never heard the state imply with no evidence whatsoever that the defense team would take care of this witness. And even though the court gave that instruction and told them to ignore it, that question, the defense team would take care of you if you answered like this, is so improper. Not only does it taint our client on the other questions, but it taints everybody at this table. And despite the judge, Your Honor's instruction to ignore it, It's pretty hard to ignore something like that. When their entire questioning for the last 30, 40 minutes have been so improper, and the court told them not to do it. And they proceeded and proceeded and proceeded. We're moving for a mistrial.
And just for the record, Your Honor, I personally have seen Ms. Holmes in the flesh or spoken to her twice ever at that deposition and today. Never by phone, never by text. Couldn't distinguish her from a can of paint until she showed up for the depot, and I haven't spoken to her since. So,
Okay, so he's pointing this out because when she said the defense, and you just heard our friend right here get up and say, you can tell he's big mad. You just heard him get up and say, you know, that her saying that is implying the entire defense team. And then our friend over here said, nope, I didn't say defense, but she did. She did. But she is saying that that's not what she said, that she was talking about, you know, basically the defendant and whoever's involved with him, like it was said in the Instagram stuff, but he's big mad. So this is why they're saying they're trying to get a mistrial.
just to let the court know there is no factual predicate for her.
Oh, and they're saying we've never met her. So they're telling the judge there's no way that we could have, you know, offered to take care of her or pay her off because we don't know her. Or didn't before this.
The implication, or not implication, the accusation made by the state that the defense sought to take care of her.
And the same for me. I met her at the depot and saw her today.
For the record, it was my first time ever seeing her in my life.
Thank you. Well done, guys. Counsel?
Yes.
Yes, madam?
Judge, with regards to that, the statements that were in the records are what was used as impeachment, where it says they said that they were going to take care of us. Defense read into it and implied it meant it was never said the defense team in any way, shape, or form. So defense implied.
Okay, so she said it was never said the defense team in any way, shape, or form, but she said defense. So you can't really say, so she's correct about she didn't say defense team, but she said defense. So, which is a way, shape, and form, just, you know.
I had read into that in some additional context that was not intended in any way, shape, or form. I was basing it on based in the records and the statements that this witness made and put forth in her Instagram account about this case on that. And it's very, in terms of the forming the question, Your Honor, it was understood that I was put under very strict and difficult conditions to formulate any question, because defense obviously wants to limit, because they know the contents of what this individual has said and all of the statements that she has made that are damaging to their client. Hence why the state would be seeking to use her as a witness.
That means nothing, Your Honor. The fact that it's damaging, I'll concede that. It's inadmissible. And the status of this impression that there is a catch-all, we're only trying to seek justice and do good, exception to all the rules of evidence. And there is no such thing. If it's admissible, admit it through an admissible procedure. You don't try and end around the court's order and the case law by coming in on some pretext and doing exactly what I told the court would happen and create an entire prejudicial fiasco and introduce inadmissible evidence into the record. That's what occurred, and this jury has been irreparably prejudiced. Or Mr. Demon's interests have been irreparably prejudiced before this jury.
Thank you. In any event, I'm going to defer ruling, take it under advisement. We'll see everybody back on Tuesday.
Okay, so he says he's going to take it under advisement and see everybody back on Tuesday. So what this means is that he is going to consider everything that they just said about whether or not this is going to be a mistrial, whether or not he thinks that the jury will be able to just disregard what was said, and you know, and if it ends up being a mistrial, that's a huge deal. But she pushed and pushed and pushed on that. So, interesting. Oh, the one other thing, if y'all wanted to see it, let's see. Oh, look at these two. They're just living their best life. They laughed a lot. They had the reason that it frustrates me seeing this is because I read all the stuff about how it affected the victim's family, and one of the victim's moms getting upset and having to get teary-eyed and walked out. I feel like whether you like him, don't like him, think he's innocent, think he's guilty, I could care less. As a matter of respect for people who have lost their families, I feel like it's something that should be kept in check, and I feel like that this was inappropriate. And he's always snipping himself too. Let's see, there was.
Tell you what happened without.
No, she just wrote shit note.
Have you ever made a statement that is different than that? Did you ever make any statements about what and saw Mr. Dennis? Did you ask him what happened?
Objection.
What's your-
Okay.
You served me a subpoena on November to be the next weekend I was in California. You never served me.
There's one thing. Oh, I don't know the timestamp. I was going to try to play it, but I don't want to spend a lot of time looking for it. When they asked her, they had one question on cross-examination.
You're aware that that was found to be valid?
No, I'm not aware of that at all.
Okay. You hired an attorney to go and represent you with the 4th District Court of Appeals?
He had to hire an attorney because he tried to get him this far.
And no, that's a false statement.
Objection.
Excuse me.
Copy of the transcript.
You're okay, fine.
Is alert the court to what was the
I can't find it. Oh, well. I was going to show it, but again, I don't have the timestamp on that one because I was busy pulling all the stuff that we're about to look at. But when they asked her who it was she felt threatened by, she said she felt threatened by the prosecution. So, let's...
state's obvious intention.
Let's get into some of the fun stuff that I found. All right, so a couple things. Let me move this. All right. So this is, I'm going to go over a few things with the paperwork. So this is the motion to exclude testimony of the expert and cell tower data. So all of this stuff from the cell tower does the most damage to the case, basically. So there was a motion to file to try to basically get rid of all of that. Let's see, supplemental motion to exclude. Okay, so this one is where he tried to get the testimony excluded for Mariah, Felicia, and Jacoby Mills. So this is Felicia's the one we just heard from. Obviously, Mariah is her daughter. So he tried to get file a motion to exclude testimony from them as well. Let me start over on this part for this. All right. Notice of limited appearance by attorney on behalf of witnesses. So Frederick Givens, the one who goes by Fredo Bang. This is the one who is the one he did the pin drop to come get him. It's the one that they were at his house after this happened. His name is Frederick Givens. He goes by Fredo Bang. So there's been a lot of paperwork on him in this as well because he is, of course, an integral part of all of this. Hereby certify a true and correct copy of foregoing motion was served by electronic mail. Okay, so they served him with a subpoena. I'm going to summarize like the 17 documents about this. They served him with a subpoena to come testify, right? So but they didn't actually serve it to him. I guess it was left at his apartment or house or whatever. And they contacted him to let him know it had been left there. So his attorney says, files a motion and says, no, that's not really good enough. Like it wasn't actually served by the way of the law, and you don't even have his, proper stuff filled out this way. And he's got tour dates coming up, so he's not even available on this time anyway, and all of this stuff. So they went back and forth about whether or not he was legally served the subpoena and what the sun's starting to peek out. Sorry, I get distracted. They went through all of that about whether or not it was even, whether he even had to go give deposition or anything like that. So the next big thing that I found when I was going through all this, so this is a whole hot mess, and I'm going to tell you why. So this protective order to prohibit the release of that certain video or recording allegedly from the phone of Melly bearing the date of November 26th, presently being sought by attorney John M. Phillips. Okay, so John M. Phillips, let's talk about him for a minute. He is an attorney who represents the, I think it's Juvie's family in the civil suit that they have filed against Melly. So there's a few things I found. He is on, here, let me show you this part. So we can see this. Oh, let me move myself. See, I gotta keep moving myself. Okay, now we can see. All right, so it's this fella right here. And he said, he said a few things on Twitter. This says up here, it's cut off the first thing, but it says when Ack spoke, so this is DJ Academics, they call him Ack. So when Ack spoke to Melly, he said that Melly, and this is in 2020, he said that Melly confidently told him that he is coming home in 2020. So he said he sang 3 of the songs that he wrote in jail and said he made a whole album in there. He can't wait for everyone to hear. He said most of his fans' favorite songs he made in jail, so he's used to it. So attorney John Phillips sees that post and he retweets it and he says, this is unrealistic and naive. Melly held on first-degree murder. No bail, bond, or furlough is coming. He'd have to win at trial. It's possible, but there could be no jury trial of 12 jurors via Zoom, and none are being set live because this is during COVID, remember? He said his family keeps saying that, but it's not realistic. So I'll talk about that part in a second, but just the rest of it. Somebody said his co-defendant, Bortland, got bail, and he said yes, but that's because there was no evidence that he is the one who shot. He was in the driver's seat, and the shots came from the rear, where Melly is seen entering the car on video. And then this tweet shows, he said, the Melly fans thinking he's getting released are beyond delusional. He's not getting released unless a jury says so, and there's evidence he killed these young men in cold blood. Whether you like his music or not, these families deserve justice. Okay, so a few things about this. This attorney is, there's a lot of paperwork on him because of this stuff. So some of the paperwork that I read, he got some wild death threats and harassment from some Melly fans after this. Pretty scary stuff, really. He talks about the, some of the evidence, the video, that type thing. So there's a few things that have happened with this as far as the paperwork goes and documents go based on him and his tweets and his, the threats against him and all of that stuff. So it says that he filed a public records request to obtain certain videos or recordings, that he has shared information about this case on his Twitter account, which is just kind of, a lot of it's just the stuff. I went on a deep dive with his stuff too. And a lot of it is just kind of stuff like that, where he's saying, there's evidence, this is in public record, you can look at this and this and this. He doesn't give any insider info. But the fact that he said anything has pissed off a lot of Melly fans. So, as many other Twitter followers, Twitter posts often make their way into mainstream media. So they're saying, all of this stuff is getting seen. The release of the information sought that he's trying to get would operate to deny the defendants and each of them a fair trial, and such pretrial publicity could impact the ability to select an impartial jury. So they don't want him getting any of the information that he filed the public records request for, because they don't want anybody seeing it. They said that it could cause there being not a fair trial. The release of such information would be tantamount to the improper commenting on the evidence causing pretrial prejudice, where the state could be compelled to release such information. The undersigned has spoken with Christine Bradley. That's our DA with the long hair that we saw. She joins in the concern. Yada, yada, yada. So that's this is the tweet that they had in the evidence for this. We represent the family of Christopher Thomas Jr., that's Juvie, and will soon be filing a lawsuit against Melly and Bortland and others. We heard of a shooting last night. The family issues this statement advocating for peace and justice. So there's been a lot of stuff about him. Okay, so this is the response. Now, this part was interesting because of the factual background, kind of talks about some of this stuff. So Jamie King, the mom of Melly, said that, okay, so she got mad at this attorney. So she filed a inquiry with the Florida bar saying that he made prejudicial statements about Melly, and that saying that Melly recorded an admission of the murders and that the alleged admission is in the court file, talking about the stuff that, they've introduced us to at this point about, what they believe to be an admission. So she says, the undersigned spoken. Oh, hold on. Let me move to this part. Oh, they've got 16 pictures of the same document. Oh, that's like the third one they've done that on. Okay, so basically the papers that I read, they're saying that it kind of goes into a lot, but basic summary, the attorney, John Phillips, who was representing Juvie in the civil trial, or Juvie's family in the civil trial, Melly's mom is not a fan. She doesn't like that he is saying that there's evidence against him. She doesn't like that he's tweeting that there's evidence against him. He didn't release anything. He didn't say anything that's not public record, but she contacted the Florida bar. She wants something to happen to him because she's not happy about him tweeting that. So long story short, on all the back and forth, there is kind of an implication that she is continuing spreading all of this stuff about, how Melly is coming home, and he's been, there's so many rumors about how, like, for example, him telling confidently, I'm going to be home this year in 2020. There's a lot of stuff about Melly saying he's coming home, and there's a lot of stuff about his mom saying he's coming home. So they were talking about a lot of the stuff goes back and forth, and there's kind of an implication that Jamie and Melly and the people in his whole camp are kind of keeping this going as a way to, really one of the things I read was as a way to make money. They took his mugshot and put Free Melly on it, and they're profiting off of him, being jailed and continuing to tell everybody he's coming home, and kind of keeping everybody watching and waiting, thinking, oh, okay, there's no evidence against him. He's coming home. This is all just a big misunderstanding. And the idea is, from everything I read, is Melly's mom is saying, him telling people that there's evidence against Melly goes against everything that they're putting out there. So she doesn't want him to be able to say anything about anything, if that makes sense. Which isn't how, it's not really how life works, but she doesn't want him to be able to say anything. The papers about, I'm not going to get into all this stuff because this is a while, but if you're interested in seeing it, there is depositions about, like, this is for Moretti. There's depositions where they're it's like all the words of what they said when they were being deposed, like their video depositions. So let's see. There are more responses to try to strike witnesses. Okay, so here's Felicia Holmes. They tried to get her striked, like I said. They did not want her information to be able to come in at all. They didn't want her testimony. They didn't want her anything. Of course, they didn't, because everything that she said was very damning against him. So they didn't want any of that to come in. They tried to say, because of various reasons, like the address being one of them, all kinds of things. Let me find her being beyond reach, and it might be. Oh, this is the defendant's motion to preclude the opinion testimony of Detective Christopher Williams concerning his purported shooting reconstruction. So they wanted all the shooting reconstruction stuff out too, but that didn't fly either. Where is the... Oh, this is more Zoom videotape stuff you can pull up. Video conference. Dang, there's one I had of Felicia, and I thought I had it pulled up ready, but her arrest stuff was, I had it pulled up. I'll have to pull it up again later, but her arrest stuff was like it had her oh, that's Leandra. Is this one? Oh, well, I guess it's gone. All of her arrest paperwork and everything is on there too. So I wanted to pull it up because of all of the stuff about, I'm not going to pull up the detective one right now. With her saying that she was never, Lucy's got the hiccups, that she was never served and all of that. Okay. And then there's a couple of these depositions. There's a couple of them by the um, detectives, but I'm not going to pull those up. The ones I wanted to look at, let's see. Demons. Okay, Leandra Phillips. Let's see. All right. We have asked you, trying to find out what happened. Okay, so this is Ashley Phillips. She says, I am the sister of Leandra Phillips. Christopher was my nephew. Leandra is my sister. We have the same mom and dad. Goodness, I can't. Okay, she says she did not witness the shooting. She said she was at a friend's house. Jamie called me and said, she said I had like 2 missed calls from her. She was like, you need to get up because they're saying that. No, she said, you need to get up because Juvie is dead. Sack is dead. And Melly is in ICU. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Now, when I read, this is the first time I've heard this, Melly in ICU. And this is supposedly Melly's mom saying this. I had not, that's the first time I've heard anything about that. She said, and then that's when I met her. Oh, goodness gracious. I got in the car with her, and that's when we went to the hospital or whatever. When I got to the hospital, I was talking to the detective, Moretti, and he confirmed that my nephew was dead. And then that's when I seen Cortland come from out of nowhere, and then that's when we left. Then when we got in the car, he was telling us that it was a drive-by shooting and that he ducked down in the front. I asked, how did this happen? What's going on? And that's what he told me. That's it. So the thing about that confused me was Jamie saying Melly's in ICU. I'd never heard that from anybody before. I had never heard that come out. I haven't heard anything about it since, but I thought it, and I mean, again, witness stuff, but I thought that was really weird and interesting. Let's see. So when you saw Detective Moretti at the hospital, what was the extent of your conversation? She said he confirmed that Christopher was dead. And was there anything else to your conversation with Detective Moretti at the hospital? She said, I can't remember everything, but I had showed him like my license and stuff like that, telling him Leandra is my sister. He said something happened to these kids and he wanted to know what, something of that nature. She said she wasn't able to offer him any information. And she didn't know what happened because she hadn't spoke to Cortland until we got in the car to leave from the hospital. And that's when he told me and Jamie what was supposed to have happened. And that's just, she said that it was a drive-by shooting. It was him. He said that it was a drive-by shooting. It was him, Melly. No, he didn't say that Melly was in the car. He said it was just him, Sack and Juvie in the car together. And it was a drive-by shooting. And some people pulled up and started shooting. And that's when he ducked down in the front seat and bullets were flying everywhere. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. I'm surprised you didn't get shot. And he said, no, I was blessed not to. And that was the extent of that. And was Jamie there at the time? She said, yeah, Jamie was there at the time. And that's when I was like, well, I thought Melly was in ICU. And she said, no, they're saying that he wasn't in the car. So, what else did she tell you? That was basically it. Let's see. Next time I spoke to the detective, I've been able to spoke to him. That was So I don't know. Has anybody else heard that before? That like that now this is Christopher's aunt, but she said Melly's mom said something about him being in ICU, and then that story changed when she got to the hospital. I had never heard that before. I'm gonna get water. Hold on. Okay. That's better. All right, so let's see. I think everything else is just kind of repeating what was said. Let's see. Oh, and then cross-examination. So asked if she knows who Fredo Bang is. She said, yes, I don't know him personally, but I know he's a rapper. Did you go to his house that morning or that day at all? She said, no, I went to Melly's house. And that was her first time going to Melly's. And they did a documentary and stuff. And then I saw it. That's how she knows it was Melly's house. And then plus Jamie had already said that that's where they were staying. Cortland gave you a description of what happened after you guys left the hospital. Did he say what type of car was involved? He did not. Did he say, it sounded like he used a term that indicated multiple people were firing. When you described that, there were people firing at the car, and that's what he said. Okay, so that's hers. Now the other one, let's see. The drilling is back, but it's not that loud today. They're on the floor above me now. All right, let's see. Is to here today related to the case, sister of Leandra. Oh, this is the same one. Hold on. Is this Ashley? Okay, so oh, it's all the same one again. Oh, Jana Thompson. Oh, they have her papers pulled for all of the ones that are labeled for the other people. Oh, let's see. Hear the drilling? Let's see. Okay, did he ever give any sort of indication that they were in an argument with another group of people? No. Were you at the hospital? When you were at the hospital, did you see Jamie speak with detective? I don't think I'm not for sure. I can't remember. I know I was speaking to him. I had shown him like my license and stuff like that. Let's see. Did you go inside the hospital? Let's see. They asked if she saw the car. Okay, redirect. they don't have these labeled right, and that's annoying me. Discussion that you heard. You said that you met Miss King in Hollywood. Where did you meet her at in Hollywood? Let's see. Maybe early morning. Thank you. Thank you, Lady in Gray. I appreciate that. I appreciate that too because it gives me a second to take a drink. Thank you so much. Let's see. Understand that. Oh, okay. So you said that you met Miss King in Hollywood. Now this is Melly's mom. This goes back to the ICU thing. It was like early in the morning, maybe 6:30, and at that time, Miss King was under the understanding that Jamell was also in the ICU. Is that what she had thought? And she said, that's what she said to me. No further questions. So I tried to look into some of this, and I could not. That was Ashley. We had Leandra and Ashley. I could not find anything else that said anything about her claiming Melly was in ICU. So I thought I wanted to pull that part up because I thought that was really interesting. Let's see. I think all the rest of it is just all the rest of it is just the other stuff that's basically like, nope, don't know what happened, don't know any of that. Oh, this one, let's see. So this is Ashley Phillips. Let's see. Where's the thing about the wake? Oh, and they said they had not talked to Portland again since then. Everything else is all the same ones repeated. Wasn't able to offer any more information. And then the other one is Moretti. So all of the deposition stuff for the or not attorneys, detectives are on there as well. I wish so much that we were able to pull up the let me see the some of the stuff that was said from her and from Felicia and Mariah. I had Felicia's papers, but let's see. Ashley Phillips. Vicinity. I think that's all of those. So, one other thing I wanted to pull up. I was going to pull up some of the stuff about Fredo Bang, but again, that's something that I decided is not family friendly enough because I was going to show a few things, but looking through it, it's not family friendly enough to show here. So I can put some of that on my other stuff that I'm going to put out, like with some of the links and stuff for y'all to look at. there are a couple things that some people have sent me asking about as well. There's a video going around right now of Melly talking to law enforcement, and they're saying that he's, you can tell he's like in an examination room. And somebody sent me asking about that. That was from the shooting when he was 16. You can hear they're talking about the school and, the people that he shot at, were they in the same grade and that type of thing. So that's not from this. That was from the shooting when he was 16. And I'm trying to think. There was a couple other things that people had sent me asking about, and I had some of the stuff pulled aside. Oh, also, before I forget, for Twitter, all of the inside information that I've been tweeting, I've said it every day when we're in here, but just so y'all can follow along, he's put out a lot of links to different things, but I want to show you his Twitter too, because I'm reading it as we're going, but here, let me show. All right, so this is him. It's Bryson Boom Paul. He's the one who's live tweeting inside the courtroom. So he's also posted some stuff that has to do with like some of the older stories and stuff like that kind of gives context to everything going on. And he posted this. This is a screenshot of Melly's mom, where she's saying that she's praying extra hard for the weirdos in the back, talking about her family for clicks and likes. And she said that she's deleting the app. She can't be crying because of a lying clout chaser who won't show his face in court but cares so much. So if y'all are interested in seeing some of the stuff from Melly's mom, she's very active on social media. Let's see. Oh, this was the other thing. Okay, so on September 16th, 2022, call on a recorded line. Melly is heard telling Barnett. Okay, so Barnett is his girlfriend. That's her last name. Hey, I'm supposed to be talking to my lawyer. Whenever they call you, just be like, is this Miss Liberty? Is this the person? Just be like, yep. So that came from, there's an article where there's a couple things going on in this one. And I've had a few of people send me this, so I figure I'll show y'all where this is coming from. So Melly is accused of working with one of his attorneys to plan a jailbreak. So this is one of the articles about that. Dramatic accusation in court was laid out in a court hearing on Tuesday that Melly, not this Tuesday, this is an older article. Melly has been locked up in Broward County. He's awaiting trial. Let's see. Okay. Here's the statement from Broward County Sheriff's General Counsel. On April 11th, 2022, Broward Sheriff's Office received a confidential tip regarding inmates Nicholas Lewis and Jamell Demons, however they say it. I say demons because it looks like demons. Both housed in the same unit at the main jail, planning an escape from jail by having his attorney bring in 2 handcuff keys to aid in the escape. Additional information provided by the source was that Lewis had a shank and drugs. Jail authorities searched his cell after the tip, which came from another inmate. They found a 6-inch shank, 2 razor blades, 2 lighters, and rolling papers. Lewis was also holding Seroquel and Klonopin pills for which he doesn't have a prescription. Melly Melly's cell was searched, but nothing was found except food from commissary and what the incident report calls excessive jail-issued clothing. The confidential source gave us 2 pieces of information. One of them about the shank and drugs turned out to be 100% true. When they did the search of the cell, they did not find the handcuff key, but it could have been that there was not an opportunity to bring it into the facility yet. So, John M. Phillips, the attorney that we talked about earlier, commented on this and said, as an attorney for a victim, we strongly feel any attempts to escape justice point blank or point to guilt. I can't talk. Any attempts to escape justice point to guilt. He said, this matter needs to be fully investigated, including the attorney's involvement. Certainly, there are times when informants and even government agents are wrong or engaging in misconduct, but we've seen so much in this case from the rooftop stripper parties. We talked about that. No, he did not change his last name. That Demons is his last, or Demons, however they want to say it, is his last name. So the rooftop stripper parties across to Diamond Teeth Dentist needs. This is yet another chapter in what needs to be just finished in court. So the rooftop stripper party, I am not going to show the videos of that, but they exist, just so you know. There are videos of the rooftop stripper party where Melly's mom and girlfriend apparently throw him a birthday party. These young ladies are up there doing gymnastics and whatnot, yoga, whatever you want to call it. They're doing their moves. There's money flying. There's people taking shots. And all of this is on the. It looks like a parking deck roof, right. It's thundering and lightning again. Right outside of Melly's cell window, so he can look out his jail cell window and see his mom and a bunch of strippers. Look, if there's ever 2 things I don't want to see together, it's my mom and a bunch of strippers, but that's just me. What do I know? The accused jailbreak is not the only trouble he has been in during recent months. He has taken away the rapper's phone privileges due to repeated violations of the jail's rules. He made over 3,000 calls since his arrest to his girlfriend, Erin Barnett, all but 22 of them without the use of his official personal identification number as required by the jail. In addition, that one of his attorneys, Raven Liberty, that's the one that he's always giggling with, is accused of giving other people her phone login credentials so that they could make non-recorded video visitation calls with Melly. The offenses laid out in the sheriff's office statement continued through this month. He's heard telling her on a recorded line, his girlfriend on a recorded line, hey, I'm supposed to be talking to my lawyer. Whenever they call you, just be like, is this Miss Liberty? Is this person? Just be like, yep. So Raven Liberty is the one he's always joking with. So she's accused of giving the credentials and yikes. So that's that part. There's a few other things that he has that Bryson has put on his stuff. Let's see. Let's see if there's anything else that we missed. And we've gone over a lot of this stuff in the moment when he's tweeted it. About like how the families are reacting and that type of thing. And Boozy. So follow him. I'll continue to read as much of his stuff as I can as it comes up, but you can read that one if you want. Now, as far as Miss Raven Liberty, let me pull up some stuff about her. Oh, I don't know if y'all saw on Twitter too, where I posted as I was digging through 700 and something pages of her documents. There was something I thought was kind of interesting. There were papers that he filed to have two New Orleans attorneys work. You have to file the paper to have if they're not in that jurisdiction, then you can file papers to be able to allow them to work for you, even if they're not in Florida because they're from LA or not LA, Louisiana or whatever. So he does that. So the attorneys are Jason Williams and Nicole E. Burdett. And he filed a motion for them to be able to represent him in March of 2019. And like a year later, this came out. So they were both indicted for tax fraud, like 11 counts of different things, including like defrauding the United States government and stuff. So those people are no longer his attorneys. I just thought that was interesting. Okay, so for somebody said her where'd it go? Her reviews are not good. Yeah. She has a
766 98 99. Caller, you're on the air. Hello.
Check this out.
No, it's different.
She has or had a
caller has a house. It's
radio
currently under Section 8, and the tenants don't want to pay. What's his?
Let's see. It's the same problem. This is a big.
She had. There's a bunch of videos of her on YouTube with her stuff. Hold on, let me pull up something else that she had. She's had some other.
In the courts a lot, and I can tell you, I've seen the shift, the change with the judges. It used to be one.
It doesn't even look like her, does it?
Bank. The judges nowadays are becoming more sympathetic towards the homeowners because they're realizing that this once upon a time this bank who everybody felt sorry for and these bad homeowners who weren't paying their loan.
So she also has. Let me pull it up. Some other high profile clients. Let me see. Where did it go? I think Kodak Black was one of them, if I remember right. Yeah, this is the lawyer that he laughs with a lot and stuff. Let's see. Okay, so here, let's
Actually,
exit
are the
out
good guys here. Big problem with a lot of my current clients right now.
All right, so this is Kodak Black, another rapper, and she represented him too. I found I think Spot 'em Got 'em. She represent, like, it's like a bunch of rappers that she's represented. And let's see. There was something I was trying to find. Which is ironic because Spot 'em Got 'em was, I think he was in a drive-by too, wasn't he? I believe. Let's see. And there was something about a strip club that I found. Oh gosh, I've gone on a deep dive for 3 days, and now I can't find all the links. But I'll pull up the other links I had to and like put some more interesting stuff on her too. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff on the internet about her, but now she is, yeah, everybody calls her the babysitter lawyer. She's the one hanging by Melly all the time. So that's all the stuff I put together for y'all for now. I have a lot more, like I said, like with this being a, case where it's a high profile rapper and stuff, like there's so many things that I found that are interesting, especially when I was doing like my social media deep dive, but I can't show a lot of it on here. I wouldn't. It's just not the kind of stuff I like to show. But there's a lot of information out there and a lot of talking. Oh, one other thing. Here, let's look at this. There's let's see. The oh, my stomach's growling. Let's see. Have you seen the documentary? Let's see. I don't even think I can show it, but well, I mean, I know I can't show most of it, but I wanted to show something.
Fuck you like I am your favorite singer.
I don't know how much of this I can show, but and there's a lot of words I don't use. But there's a documentary on his YouTube. But I want to skip to this.
You still want more?
Okay. 4 days after the completion of this film, Melly and his friends were the targets of a drive-by shooting in Miami, Florida. Okay, so here's the thing. This documentary was put on Melly's YouTube. This is Melly's documentary on his YouTube. So I have a feeling this will probably be brought in as well, because here we are on his YouTube, and it's saying 4 days after the completion of this film, Melly and his friends were the targets of a drive-by shooting. So this is putting Melly in the car at the time that this happened. And this is something that is posted on his stuff. So this is his documentary on his YouTube channel. So, yeah, more incriminating stuff. So interesting to say the least. If you search his YNW Melly, it'll come up. He has like a big one. It'll come up. But that's all I have for today. I am going to I'm going to watermark my charts this time because I've learned that lesson the hard way. It's still lightning. I'm going to watermark them, and then I will tweet them, and then I will put I don't know how to work Discord, but our mods are incredible and they know how to work it, so I'll send them to them and let them put them on Discord for those of y'all who want them. But I'll tweet them and I'll put them on a Facebook page. But I don't know how to work Discord, so so anybody who can help me out with that, I'll send them to you. As things come out, because this is based on like the PCA and the stuff that we've heard so far and all that, as things come out, I will update these and add more. And so I'll put a date on these for where they're at now. So if you see a different version later, then you'll know that it's updated. So I will date them before I put them out. But that's about it. So I hope that this was helpful, especially with some of the confusion on some of the different things about why we saw things and what things meant and stuff like that, especially with the maps. I know that the maps make things a lot easier to understand when they're talking about, who went what way and why. I took the time to map that out because I feel like it's an important part of the story and how to understand it. So I will put all this out, but I appreciate y'all hanging out with me, and I'm excited for us to start court in the morning because we will find out first thing in the morning about the motion for mistrial. I doubt that they'll grant a mistrial, but especially because, the process for jury selection for death penalty cases is so long anyway. I doubt they will grant a mistrial, but they've got all kinds of things that they can use for appellate issues if he is convicted. So very interesting. We'll see how it goes. All right, y'all. We have court tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Don't forget. And tonight we have night court. So if you have not joined us for night court before, it's a blast. It starts at 8:45, 7:45 Central. We are streaming Jodi Arias, and we have a really good time with all of that. That's our fun stream. So 8:45, 7:45 Central tonight for night court, and then we continue with Melly and find out about. Y'all don't be late tomorrow. Tomorrow's morning's going to start off with a bang. So 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow morning. I'm so excited. I love watching the process of justice happen, and this stuff is also interesting to me. Yes. Oh, Patches. Yes, I have seen that. The Pivot podcast has Travis doing an interview. I saw that. I teared up when he was talking about his dad and stuff too. That's a really good one if y'all haven't seen that. Alrighty, y'all. I appreciate everything so much. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Don't forget to rest up tonight because we have a big day tomorrow. So I appreciate everything. Thank you for reporting to jury duty, and I will see y'all either tonight for night court or in the morning.